Hi guys, Leafried here. Today, again, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Something that I also am really into is music. And so I listen to a lot of music. And what I typically do is I'll have a bunch of artists I follow on Spotify. And every year, starting around December, but really starting in January to February and March, I'll just listen to all the stuff they make. And so I kind of have a year in review. I've never really made it public or talked about, the things that I listen to, except for now here. So I thought it might be a fun thing to kind of branch out and just kind of show you guys a whole new dimension of myself and this channel and of music in general. Because I feel that it's a time when I think mainstream music is probably the worst it's ever been. But at the same time, there are so many niche groups and subgenres that are popping up here and there that I really enjoy. And there's actually a lot of really good music out there. It's just not very public. So I'm trying to make it public. Anyway, without further ado, let's kind of just jump in. So right off the bat, my favorite artist of the year is probably Parhelia with Archive Number 3 and Solar Interstates. I had to choose this one simply because they had two albums this year in 2024 that back to back were both really good, but with both different themes inside of them. Archive Number 3, the typical music from this artist is more sort of jungle, which has become sort of my dominant and favorite brand of music. I've heard different types of jungle being atmospheric jungle, intelligent D&B, different modifications of the same theme. A lot of them pop up in things like atmospheric, PS1, fruitier arrow style playlist or something. And I actually just got really into jungle music a few years ago, simply because I just realized it kind of lends itself to the gaming landscape and just to a certain style of music where there's a very high-paced percussion. It's very not it's not heavy on the percussion, but it's very fast-paced, and all of the other sounds kind of float on top of that. And I guess a cousin of jungle would be breakcore, which I've been really into for quite a few years. So artists like Sewer Slut, Midbooz, Toaster Milton, Castile, AAK3. There's a handful of them, but I think everyone kind of recognizes Sewer Slut as the major contributor to the genre. And the only difference there with breakcore is that I feel the percussions, the samples and the breaks are just harder. It still has that introductory sort of synth soothing vibe, and then it devolves into this kind of chaotic madness. It's really a combination of the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack and then some absolute madman drummer on crack. It's pretty much how I describe breakcore in a nutshell. But Parhelia, they do more softer jungle style music, and so it just sounds good. It's just very soothing, very moody, very cool. And I find that the high paced percussion really reflects information overload, like the speed of thought that someone is going at. The opposite of that, I think, would be someone who's, zoned out, smoking weed, and they're just super chilling. This is the opposite of that. It's not super hardcore progressive metal or heavy metal or anything, but it's the same kind of vibe, just at the opposite end of the spectrum. This is the cocaine version maybe, but it's more melodic and not as chaotic and destructive and whatnot. I also just find it's funny that it's called intelligent D&B, drum and bass. implying a demented or stupid drum and bass, which is all other drum and bass. I don't know how that word intelligent got thrown in there, but I think it's very funny. But it's just over the time, it's really been what I vibe with. And Parhelia just made two amazing albums back to back. Solar Interstates is more so kind of mellow, or not so mellow, but it's more synthy, more trance, like more energetically soothing, while Archive Number 3 has a lot more energy to it. And I just had to look at my favorite artist of the year, and when you have two back-to-back albums where I'm liking almost every song of the album, I mean, I have to give it to them. So because a lot of the time I really don't like a lot of music on the whole album. And this is just a common thing when you go into an artist's discography. Their most popular music is their only good music. You listen to all of their other work and you think this is actually garbage. It's sometimes a rare example when you go into an artist's history and you find out, oh wow, this other stuff they're not known for is actually much better. And I definitely had that first experience with 50 Cent, where I just assumed that his most popular music was his best, but no, he has a lot of really good bangers. If I Can't, Heat, I can't name them right off. Mike is good. Rider Music. Ooh, Rider Music is smooth, so smooth. And I just never took 50 for that kind of musician. I thought he just, normal, pimp rap and whatever, talking about going to the club and all that stuff. But anyway, he's got some very smooth, interesting beats in a lot of his earlier work. And I just, you don't know until you actually listen to their whole discography. And it gives you a full appreciation of what an artist's work really is like. You don't know if someone has just made a one-hit wonder that they're just rehashing over and over and over again, or if they actually have a really great repertoire that's buried by a one-hit wonder that they're requested to keep performing over and over and over again, or there's completely unknown, unheard of individuals and people. Anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but yeah, Parhelia, really, really unusual there, where I actually liked almost every song of the album. I would like 1, 2 songs, maybe three songs that I really like on the album is a pretty good album to me. But to have almost every song on an album be good, it's super rare, at least for my tastes. So next would be Ride with Interplay. I don't know, I really don't listen to this band a lot, but I've kept them in my repertoire, and this last album was just really surprisingly very good. It's very prog rock. It definitely reminds me of, I don't know if you can, I'm always going to screw up when it comes to analogies, but it's like, Franz Ferdinand, like early 2000s kind of energy, maybe a little bit, not quite like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it's a prog rock album. And specifically Monaco, Came to See the Wreck. Just overall a good album, just a really good solid album that was just surprisingly good. I just enjoyed it. I don't really have much else to say about it on that point. Next one would be Tourist with Memory Mourning. I really liked their single when they released it, Ithaca. I think it was called Ithaca. And I immediately thought of, the Odyssey, and in that style. I always found it strange that they had loons, like loon sounds in that song, and it's very, I don't know. For me, it's actually kind of personal, because you do hear loons in on the Ontario lakes up here, and that to me is a very iconic, specifically Canadian sound, and so. To have a song called Ithaca about the ancient homeland, of Odysseus, and to have loons in the background, just personally for me, that was an interesting experience. I guess overly personal, you could say. But yeah, it's very synth poppy. I'm not sure how to describe it. I'm just throwing out labels at this point, but it's like synth pop to me, and very kind of dreamy, dreamcore. And yeah, I've been so on Tourist, some of their earlier works, but this one really was like, it was nice, it was smooth. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope other people check it out as well. Oh yeah, this is actually pretty big. I'm actually overjoyed and shocked that Boa, yes, the Boa who did the opening song for Serial Experiments Lain, that has been a dormant Spotify page for a good decade, has a new album, and it's good. Like, I'm legitimately actually shocked that we're past 2024 now, and we have a brand new Lain vibe album. I don't know, it just came out of nowhere, and it's legitimately good. I think some of my favorite songs on this album would be hold on, let's see, Walk With Me, Beautiful and Broken, Worry and Shadow. It just has the same vibe as Duet or Duvet, which is the opening song for Lain. It has that melancholy, longing, Beautiful and Broken, I think, is the song that really summarizes the entire vibe of Boa. And again, just, everyone's like, oh yeah, Boa, like everyone's Lain posting, Lain core, that idea and collection of ideas of the personified internet, of this weird, not dystopian, but slightly uncanny version of reality. And the whole point of Lain is that reality is more of a simulation, while the internet is more real than reality. And it's treated in a very mature and intellectual almost facet. I think it might be interesting to actually analyze Lain as a anime and as a story. The one thing I do remember at Lain, though, is that it's notoriously boring to watch. The concepts and the vibe are really interesting, but to actually consume it, I just remember telling myself, tell your future self, if someone decides to watch Lain and drop it because it's boring, they're completely justified. Because yeah, it's very boring, but it's also super interesting and engaging. And so it's a very select few group of people. And to this point, Lain is still a meme or an entity, if you could call her, on the internet, on internet forums, as was the point of the show. So, I mean, I think that show really succeeded as a cultural landmark without really saying anything super specific, but by creating a vibe at the very least. So yeah, Boa's back, and I'm surprisingly shocked and happy. It's not a cash in, it's not selling out. They've made a really great album, so please go listen to it. Now we come to the singles. So I mean, a good single is, hard to do. A good album is even harder, but I wanted to just bring us some of the singles and just some of the songs that I just really vibed with, that were really great. First up is Hollywood Babylon by Oliver. This one was probably my favorite song of the year. I don't want to get into geopolitics or whatever, but I feel like this song almost encapsulates this idea and version of America as this living beast, in a way that if America was like personified into a singular person or a singular animal or a singular song, I think this would be it. It's this dichotomy of, don't mess with us, we'll kill you. We don't care if you're unarmed. We don't care if you are armed. We're going to do it anyway. And, just all the facets. And it has this, obviously, I mean, it's a dark overtone to, the country, but it takes it in a weird, serious, it kind of treats America like it's a dangerous animal that's prowling the globe. And not to become too propagandistic or political, it just gives you that vibe, and I really appreciate that. And it shows kind of the inherent contradictions of the hyper religiosity and other aspects of it. And but aside from all that, it just makes it really cool that, yeah, being in America is being inside this dangerous, unpredictable, powerful machine. But it's in that darkness, and then that uncertainty, that there's excitement, that there's this excitement that, yeah, the system is broken, the system is hypocritical, the system is violent, the system is self-interested and imperialistic and dangerous. But by being inside that system, you're part of that system. And that also means that there's potential for you to, grow and become part of the beast and kind of latch onto it without losing yourself inside of it. I'm probably reading way too much into this, but that's the vibe I get. And so it's like a dark, evil, dangerous, but cool and exciting and spontaneous journey. Because even though you could argue, oh, the country's evil, whatever, which I mean, I'm not on that side or that team. I mean, I'm a Canadian, so I mean, what can I say? That we're always living in the shadow of the machine. I appreciate how it makes it feel. It's kind of like a beast that's obviously dangerous and intimidating, but it's also the potential that you could tame the beast. I don't know. And so it's that part where there's a lot of risk reward. I don't know. That's kind of just the vibe I get from this. And I just really enjoyed listening to it. And as I listened to it multiple times, the vibe and the meaning really changed for me. And so, I mean, it's very unoriginal as a concept. Oh, America is actually evil. Whoa, crazy. But it takes it in a more just cool way. Like, America's actually evil, and that's a good thing. Or it's dangerous. Anyway, I'm going to get off on this tangent. I like America, by the way. I'm a big fan. It's hard to differentiate between the American people, the American government, American culture, and the American founding ideas. And there's certain things I like and certain things I don't like, and I tend to swap between them sometimes. But the one thing that you can't not argue is that America is exciting, and because of that, the shopping malls, the city centers, it's a fun time, even if it's a little bit chaotic and evil. Another single I really, really like, this is definitely a runner-up, very, very much a tie, is Shallow Water by Elderbrook. I'd also look up the music video because they have a bunch of East Asian people doing all this really advanced choreography and all this really cool falling through the sky and doing synchronized movements. It's really cool. I really, really, really like it. And Shallow Water is just a very nice vibe, and it's just something I could jam to for hours while I'm working. It just became my song, and it's just one of those songs I would listen to 50, 100 times, and I would still not get bored of it. It just feels really, really good to go through, and maybe just syncs up with my vibe, my energy, my thought process. It definitely has that kind of high percussion, but low synth, low overall vibe, and it kind of, focusing on one particular thing. I just really like it. And a lot of these are going to be very similar to that, so maybe I'll just start listing them off. Oh, this is a little bit more funky, but it's a Moby song, Should Sleep remix, specifically the Prinz Thomas disco mix. The original is also still pretty good, but this one just added just a little bit more. It's so rare for remixes to actually objectively make a song better to listen to. You can make it different. You can make it totally weird. Usually remixes just add some weird effect to it that does not complement the original composition at all. But this one is spot on. It is literally a better version where they just add a bit more bass to it. I'm not sure exactly the right terminology, but Should Sleep it's funky, it's intense, it's serious. It gets me moving. I absolutely love it, and has a really good attitude to it. It's just it's the coolest song. It's super, super cool. It's a little bit funky, a little bit silly. I really like it, and it's something, again, that I could put on 50 times, 100 times. I'm still there. I'm still there in the vibe. It's such a good time. Next up is Tiesto and Alana Springsteen with Hot Honey. Tiesto is kind of synonymous with Darude Sandstorm as, the dubstep guy, along with Avicii if he was still alive. But yeah, so Tiesto, he's one of those guys. He made his really big scene back in, I guess, the '90s or whatever, and became synonymous with electronic, Eurobeat music or whatnot. And once you kind of establish a style, you stay in that style, kind of go forward. Tiesto, though, he kind of surprised me with this one. It has a lot more a lot more strings and string kind of effects in this one, and it sounds very different from the stuff he makes, in general. And along with the vocalist, this just Hot Honey just feels like a very fun beat, a nice song. It's not exactly, it might pass as club music, but it's definitely it's definitely heavier than the other stuff here. It's something that's more traditional dancing music, but I just think it's a really good mashup, mix, whatever you want to call it. It's just a good beat. It's a good time. Next up, Rag and Bone Man, What Do You Believe In? High Contrast remix. This one is crazy. This is actually there's one specific part where it goes where it goes like right in between the chorus. The instrumental part is just insane. I've never heard something like that. It's really intense without being loud or super heavy. It's very high pitched, and it really oscillates in this really interesting way. And it has this kind of extreme yearning, but almost at a comical speed. There's been a lot of Rag and Bone Man remixes that have actually been surprisingly very good. He himself as an artist, I think I know Human as kind of the one song from him that I kind of appreciate, but his remixes by these other artists are objectively, I don't know, subjectively better. I don't know. They're a lot more fun. For example, Giant. There was a Calvin Harris. I think it was Calvin Harris, Rag and Bone Man, and Giant remix that was really, really good, and just really interesting sounds that you don't usually hear. I'm really into when there's an electronic beat that just does something different. I'm used to drop a bass, drop you have these kind of heavier sounds or trap snares or trap beats or rather. So whenever there's something slightly really different, that sounds really cool. I'm definitely there. And High Contrast, this one just makes you feel like you're driving in a race car. It's just going so fast, but you're still in control of it. So yeah, I really like that one. Next one, MGMT, People in the Streets. MGMT is I mean, they're a weird band. They definitely have a lot of very weird music. I think they were very popular back in the MTV days in the early 2000s. They were kind of like, I don't want to say Sum 41, but for weird kids. I don't know how to say it. They definitely have a lot more mixture of rock and instrumental music. But People in the Streets, it's a weird song, obviously, but it's very mellow, very melancholy, and almost a little bit sad. It's a little bit sad, but it also has this really interesting vibe. And what I always think about this when I listen to it is just how, I don't know, there's just inherent hypocrisies in human nature. And like there's one line in this thing that always gets me, is that they said that the fire was out, so the people complained to have it restarted or something like that. Like something was on fire and people complained about it. And so I guess it's, I don't know, for me, the way I interpret it or the way I feel about it is the inherent madness of crowds and people, how you could have an entire community, organization of people that are campaigning for something that makes their lives objectively worse. And how that in the crowd and in the people, it's kind of like if God was looking at humanity and he's like, oh, man, like I made you for a specific purpose and now you're just totally missing the point of even your own happiness. And so I just think, it just feels like all the social changes that have gone on through the past few decades, and how there's just been a little bit of madness in each one of them, even if it's a riot or a street protest. They tend to use simple slogans and whatnot. And sometimes, there have been protests that, the reason for them is justified and true and just, but I don't know, someone ends up getting trampled, someone gets beaten up. There's some weird energy that manifests when groups get together and they all march for some purpose where the individual is lost in it. George Carlin said something very similar, where he said that he loves individuals and he hates groups. He hates when, whenever a group gets together and they get an idea, they're better than everyone else, they got really funny hats, and suddenly they kill a lot of people. And I found that to be pretty funny. But yeah, it's kind of like a sad, melancholy way of, I don't know, for me, it's like God looking at humanity and looking at all the not so good decisions we've made and just being like, well, they're just people in the streets. It's all they are. Or maybe it's also from like a child's perspective. If there's great turmoil in your country, some big political upheaval, and from a child's perspective, it's like they're looking at all this political happening or all these riots from a child's perspective, where they don't really understand what's going on. They can't really comprehend it, but they're just saying there are people in the streets and they're angry that the fire is out. So they're going to have the government to, reignite it so the fire continues burning down the town because that's what they want. So I don't know. It's just a very sad, interesting, also a little bit a cool vibe. Just a weird thing. And all I remember is what they were known for back in the day, for having the #1 MTV spot for kids, which to this day is a music video that just, when I think about it, it's very similar to this. It's about your perspective of the world as a child and how unintentionally messed up and disgusting everything kind of is when you're a kid, and it just is noise and fury and confusion. And kids is a ride, and I love that song too. I mean, that's really, I think, their main song when I think of this band. But I think People in the Streets, it kind of picks up on kind of a similar vibe now that I'm really saying it out loud. Next, this wasn't a artist that updated 2024. This is a new artist I found, Jeff Buckley. I know, he reminds me a lot of maybe like a cross between David Bowie and someone else. I don't know. He's kind of like a folk-ish. Oh no, I would say and The Doors. I would say it'd be Bob Dylan and The Doors, where they have this kind of folksy, whatever, the world is changing kind of vibe, and then this really dark, weird, depressing, almost sickening, nightmare dream-like vibe that The Doors kind of have with the dissonance of their music. And so things like Dream Brother, You and I, specifically Dream Brother, is a very interesting mood, and he's just very dark and mysterious. I like music that is mysterious. The lyrics don't make sense. Sometimes usually, honestly, I really try never to look up lyrics, because what I think and my notion and what I interpret something as is usually better than what it really is in reality. So I just never look up lyrics in general. But yeah, Jeff Buckley, really surprising artist I had never heard of. Also, just reading about him was interesting. He apparently drowned in a river in the mid 2010s, I think. And it was just, he got pulled under by a wake or something, completely accidental, no drugs or whatever, and just he was gone. That was it. So very kind of sad and disappointing, and again mysterious. He just, I guess, drowned. And yeah, I don't know. It just he seemed like a cool guy, very very mysterious. You could tell he had a deep soul when you listen to his music, I think is what I'm saying. But yeah. What's this? Oh, Stasis, My Tethered Heart. With a name like that, you'd think this is like a more emotional, deep spiritual song, but no, this is a a techno kind of electronic dance kind of song. Again, just a really nice composition, really cool effects. I just like this one. So I don't have much else to say about it than that. Next up, Major Access with Sonar Echoes. This one's kind of cool. He was definitely inspired by Echo the Dolphin, the video game, the Sega Genesis, or one of the Segas. And he incorporates, like, the Sonar Echo sound, or like those marine, whatever technology sounds. He incorporates that kind of into the song itself. And again, this is more of a jungle or intelligent D&B kind of song. So I really just enjoy, and I just dig that that style. Oh yeah, Perfume came out with a new album, and the song I really like on that, not all of them, but Mobius, the last song on the album, really good. I think it's insane that in Japan they have a idol group of 30-plus-year-old ladies who dance in high heels on stage with the coolest effects possible, and they make some of the hardest, interesting, coolest beats ever. A Perfume is an amazing band. I really love them, and I hope they keep making lots of music. They're definitely not an idol band where idol bands and idol groups are such a big thing over there. They're definitely like a group, but I don't know, they've always been into electronic music, and I know they just have a really good vibe to them. And they're just very pure in a way, and also just a very fun time. And Mobius is just a very high energy song. It's really good. It's just listening to Perfume is always fun. It's always a really fun time. So yeah, there's that. And for the last single I have to bring up, this is crazy. Tears for Fears, The Girl That I Call Home. This again, it's a funky, not funky, but it's more of a synth melancholy kind of beat about, some girl. So it's about a girl, woman. And it's just crazy that Tears for Fears, this is a band that was really popular in the 80s, and they're back with a song that I don't think you could really tell it was Tears for Fears if you listened to it, unless you were really listening for it. But it sounds like it's a modern song. It sounds great. It's just nice. It's not super melancholy, only slightly, and it's really more romantic and yearning and all that kind of stuff, while sounding really interesting at the same time with its specific beats. I think it's funny that these bands that were really big in the 80s or the 90s suddenly are like, hey, we're still here. They've come around again. I just think that's really interesting. Another example of that would be Duran Duran, Invisible. They made a whole album, but one of the songs, Invisible, on that album, which came out 2021, so a few years ago now, it's like been elevated to this meme status in the Metal Gear Solid community, which is so interesting to me, because it's a song it's a band from the 80s. It's a song that's new, but it's being memed as if it's part of the official soundtrack, and it's being used in a bunch of music videos, and Metal Gear Solid 5 specifically. And that just brings me so much joy to see a band that might have been fallen out of the starlight, and people are putting it back in there by forcing it or memeing it into a game, which does kind of fit with it. And I think people are doing that because kind of a Mandela effect, where the ending song for Metal Gear Solid 5, I think everyone, slow down. A lot of the music in Metal Gear Solid 5, it takes place in the 80s. So they have a lot of things like Spin Me Right Around. And you can get all these on the mixtape, and there's a whole bunch of licensed music. And so the final song, The Man Who Ruled the World, or The Man Who Sold the World, people I think got confused with The Man, like Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, but it sounded more like those heavy beats and whatever sound more like Duran Duran. And so I listened to The Man Who Sold the World versus Invisible, and some of the beats are very similar, but it's not entirely the same. But I know, for whatever reason, good or bad, the Invisible's now, the new Duran Duran song is now popular because of Metal Gear Solid 5, which is a game that came out, 2015? So And I love that song too. So I'm glad that this weird revival is going on. Anyway, those are most of the songs that I really listened to. I really enjoyed. I'll make some few last minute recommendations here, or kind of qualifiers. My favorite cover of the year was by far the weirdest. Whenever I look at covers or remixes, I'm always looking at two artists that have nothing in common, and they come together to make something amazing. So the first time I can recall something like that happening was, I think it was Elton John and I want to say Ariana Grande with Cold Heart. Was it Ariana? No, I'm just going to search it. Sorry, it was Elton John and Dua Lipa PNAU remix. That was the first time I saw, okay, Elton John, Dua Lipa, these two artists have nothing in common. Like lyrically, composition wise, and they come together to make this song that is just such a good jam. And don't watch the music video for it, because it's legitimately the most weird, uncanny, unnerving things, where they have these weird claymation, like cats, not old cats but new cats, musical look to them, but they're also non-human and claymated, and just it's really weird, but it sounds really good. And I've only heard it a lot more in the past few years, so I think it's really caught on as a good song. And so that's one example of two things that just, what? Like these two things come together and make something really, really cool. So for this year, the one that blew me away for that was the cover of Stay By Me with Sam Smith and Hikari Utada. And for those of you who don't know, Hikari did kind of the main songs for Kingdom Hearts. So the opening for Kingdom Hearts 1, the main theme of "Please don't walk away, you don't hear me say please, oh baby, don't go." Okay, I need to stop or I'll get sucked into that. So she did that, and she collabed with Sam Smith, who I frankly don't really like. I think he's kind of most of his music is very hard, intense, dubstep, kind of the obviously satanic kind of music, trying to get into that, evil vibe or whatever. But he has a really nice voice, and it sounds almost angelic. And so here he collaborated with someone who's known for a very beautiful, moving, fragile, innocent series like Kingdom Hearts, and they come together to sing "Stand By Me," and it's really good. It's very overpowering. It feels really heartfelt, surprisingly so. And again, you just have two people that just who, the Kingdom Hearts lady and the modern, American icon doing, I'll take you to the body shop, come together to make something genuinely beautiful. Really, really amazing stuff. Very fragile, the way his voice sounds, and I think they have a backup choir as well. So I was like, okay, well, I'm taken aback. And for the last thing, my favorite music video of the year, I really didn't see a lot of music videos that impressed me, but if I had to choose one, it would be Fortnite featuring Taylor Swift and Post Malone. I don't think I like Post Malone. He really confuses me. I really don't like the whole, I'm a rapper and I got tattoos over my face. But his most recent album this year was country themed. And when I think about it, I think it was Ariana Grande it was Beyonce. Sorry, it was Beyonce who did a country themed album as well last year. And it is kind of like a weird shift for a lot of artists to get into it. I don't know if they are tired of the scene or they want to go to something more traditional. I don't know, but they've been making country-ish albums. Obviously not full-on country, because it's still kind of cemented as that specific thing. But yeah, so Post Malone and Taylor Swift and Fortnite. I know that's not sounds like the game, and I cringe as I say that, but this music video was just really cool. The visuals, they have this whole thing where they're doing the typewriters. It's all in like black and white with some colors, which is really cool. And they have this whole thing where their ideas are combining. They have this really nice scene where they have all these papers floating around them. And, you know, Post Malone and Taylor don't look like they really go together, but it just felt, I don't know, very emotional. They have the scene where even Post, you know, gets all of his tattoos removed and like he's, you know, clean again or something. So it was just visually really interesting and kind of a cool music video, and not a bad song either. So yeah, I just thought I'd shout it out. Usually all of my favorite music videos are just Vocaloid things anyway, because they show highly abstract, weird stuff. For example, a couple of years ago, my favorite one was my favorite music over the past couple of years was Salasasa by Sasakura.uk. Pretty big in the Vocaloid fandom, or in terms of creators. And so their music video was like the inner workings of someone's mind combined with Alice in Wonderland. And the point of the title Salasasa was that it's a non sequitur, it doesn't mean anything. So it's just a total abstract adventure going through all of these weird mindscapes and horizons and all these weird things that just kind of collide, and it has, you know, just abstract notions. And it was just really cool. I thought it's a great way to try to visualize the inside of someone's mind, which a lot of media tries to do, from Madoka Magica to Psychonauts. You know, what is the inside texture and mindscape of someone's mind really looks like. And I'm always impressed when someone tries to do that and gets somewhat close to something that I could believe. But yeah, that's kind of an insight into my music tastes and music in general. Again, there is really good stuff out there. It's just not in the public space. And I hate most mainstream music. I don't like anything on the radio or the mainstream, very rarely. I mean, you have things like Linkin Park comes back and they introduce a new female singer, and they're trying to, I guess, still make music. And I think their most successful song has been the Emptiness Machine. I don't care to look it up. It's okay, but it's really not the same. They're trying to, I guess, rekindle that same energy, I guess, or go in a different direction. But yeah, it's really not working. However, conversely though, I would say that Lost, the Lost single that they made in 2002 but didn't release until a couple of years ago, is amazing. It's almost as good as In the End, in my opinion. It's really, really good. And the fact it was just hidden away in an archive gives it a whole greater cachet. Like, this is literally a voice, and it is, you know, Chester's voice, and he's passed away now. So it's even literally his voice from beyond the grave in a whole new way that we've never heard him before. I think it also released with another single, but I didn't really like it all that much. But Lost is it's pink Linkin Park that we were robbed of. And it makes you really, I guess, think and appreciate about, as an artist, you know, that you're here at a certain time and you're at a certain place and you're making a certain sound that is going to perhaps outlive you. And I don't know, we should just take appreciation for the things we have now rather than just complaining about all the bad stuff, even though there's a lot of bad stuff to complain about. And just in general, I find that artists, usually their first album is sometimes their best, when they have the initial idea and then you get caught in the act of just remixing or remaking or trying to recapture that magic or a new direction. And no one ever says, oh yeah, I like their new stuff better than their old stuff. No one ever says that. The old stuff is always the best stuff because it's the more genuine aspect of them. Before they got popular, before people liked it, before they got big. And there was just that level of total personal relation there, which I guess over time just, you know, gets lost. But yeah, that's kind of it. You know, I don't really intend to, you know, do these very often. I think I'll do like maybe a music video once a year when I do my update. I listen to the year's music and I kind of tell you guys what's good and what's not. But yeah, I love good music. There's a lot of really cool good music out there. It's not on the radio, it's not on the mainstream, and it's all kind of all over the place. And yeah, this is one of my other passions. Anyway, I just want to share that with you guys, and take care. Bye-bye.